Public relations, marketing, and social media and healthcare requires making the right moves at the right time. Welcome to the Overrated and Underused show. Here's your hosts, experienced marketers Jen Jennings and Testa, with special guest Adrienne Stoner. Overrated and underused. The Overrated and Underused show.
Welcome back, everyone, to the next episode of Overrated and Underused. We're your hosts, Testa and Jen Jennings. Last month, we talked a bit about website trends. That was the topic for last month's show. I think it was a pretty good discussion. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt like last week that we had that conversation. But no, I think we definitely went through a lot of items to think about as you're building a website or looking to refresh your website. So certainly not any small project or kind of undertaking, but definitely lots to talk about there. I thought it was good. Hopefully it's helpful to our listeners.
It was a really good discussion. But this month's discussion is going to be on something a little different. We're going to talk about the written versus spoken word.
Yeah. So this episode, we are focused on written versus spoken. And, for this instance, we're talking about, written as in articles, blogs, and like written emails, written content delivery, versus when we're talking about spoken, it's more radio, podcasts, videos, and more animated delivery of content.
Yep. Yeah, and it's funny because I kind of feel the written word, is kind of a lost art for a lot of people. I know we do it all the time. We write a lot for our clients, but the written word for some folks in this world of what is it for tweets? So what is it now, up to 200 and whatever, 80 characters or whatever it is? I feel that's how people write. And then there's that attention span where you got folks who just want things updated constantly nonstop. So, I feel it's a lost art, but it's still an important art. But we'll get into that as we move along.
So you're gonna strongly advocate for the written word.
Look at me. I'm like, all of a sudden I became old school again. Right.
Well, yeah. I guess Dinosaur Tom.
Show over, hit the music.
Okay, so I'm going to go on the record that the written word is overrated.
Overrated.
Okay, why so? Tell us.
Well, I said overrated. I didn't say, ineffective or invalid or, worthless. Like, don't ever write 2 sentences again.
Of course.
Just saying that it's, kind of not the end all be all when it comes to promotional outreach and content delivery.
Right. Yeah, no, we've talked about this in previous shows too. We've pointed to blogs. We've pointed to even, writing is essential for some piece of sponsored content. So certainly writing is still valuable. But what you're saying is the written word isn't the end all be all. It shouldn't be the only thing you focus on when trying to get your message out there. You think there are other great platforms like podcasts to help get your messages out there.
Yeah, we kind of all know what happened with print media in the last decade, and even online media outlets have their limitations when it comes to, content. And, a lot of them are really just looking how to better engage audiences. And Tom, you kind of touched on this earlier, a lot of people just don't have the attention span, the time to read a 2,500 word article. Even if it is on a subject that they care about. They want small bits of content. They want to be pulled in. So with, infographics or, call outs or something that's going to bring them and actually make them sit down and read that 2,500 word article, or at least skim through the first, page and the conclusion. People's attention spans are much shorter. I think you really have to draw them in. There's so much content overload out there. So many people kind of blasting messages, and it's kind of just the times that we live in where instant access to any piece of information that you want. Certainly you want to have that information out there. I just think that radio shows, podcasts, just more, videos, those type of delivery methods are underused.
Not to try and make your point, because I want to tell you why it's certainly not overrated, but I feel like the attention span is even hitting as far down as my own kids, right? They're 2 and 4. And when a commercial comes on TV, for God's sakes, they freak out. So it's the next generation, the generation before them, that attention span is gone. The written word is becoming a lost art. You talked about even earlier how, it's affected the journalist world. And a lot of the real old school journalists who have been writing for years and writing longer form pieces, and they've either had to adapt or, what I saw in certain publications was like they had these big publications who had many journalists, and they went from like 100 writers, reporters to like working in that multimedia crew. So like some of the reporters would go down, the traditional print reporters, so they didn't need them all the time. But now they had these visual journalists come on board, those who could create video, create more of the visual storylines, like you said, like the infographics, things like that. I'm not going to sit here and say the written word is the end all be all either, but we definitely have seen a blend in the industry. And I think just look at some of the bigger newspaper publications and you'll see how they've even moved from, just print only to a lot of this visual journalism, or that's probably the wrong word, which is a much better and official word for that.
No, I think that's a good word. If that's not the official word, that should be.
I'm hashtagging it, visual journalism.
It's not hashtag, trademark it.
Oh yeah, I don't even know.
Yeah, you want to get paid for other people to use it.
True story. So that's why I think that's been sort of a shift in some of the newsrooms, and that's why I think a lot of the marketers are adapting to that too in some way. But having said all that, written is still crucial. And it's crucial to corporate structures of documentation. So, for example, a lot of the things you write, there's a lot of elements on the corporate side where with a written word, you're not going to have a video for, let's say, something
you can't think of anything because you can have a video on everything.
Geez, you're right. Written word it's not needed. Get rid of it all.
No, well, I mean, obviously, depending on the content, you kind of find the best delivery mechanism for like what you have to work with. Certainly not everybody is great on camera, is great for a video, or, is comfortable doing a radio segment or a podcast, but they have a great story to tell. So, you could hire somebody else to tell it, voiceover talent, or, you can make a case study out of it or a white paper.
Yeah.
Like the important thing is to have compelling content and get it out there. And maybe you do both. I mean, maybe you have both.
There are a lot of ways that you can tell things visually, but I think still there are certain elements that require, instead of, let's say, a 3-minute video, because again, it goes back to the attention span. You can't have something on there for 10 minutes, right? So although some of this you can slice down into a 3-minute video, like a corporate overview, or even maybe a small case study or something like that, there still is value in a 10-minute read to a lot of folks. Longer form editorial pieces, even some folks who publish in clinical journals. I mean, of course, those are more longer form pieces, but I still think some editorials, some longer form pieces, there is such great value still, obviously, in the longer form 10-minute read. Certainly, that's never going to go away. I don't think we're going to wake up one day and all of a sudden it's just going to be visual, this, video here, video there, infographics left and right. But it certainly feels close to that some days when you jump on and everything is really visual. And of course, social media helps drive that as well.
So circling back to the main point, the written word is overrated, but
slightly
not invalid, not worthless, still very important to a overall comprehensive marketing public relations plan.
Absolutely. On all fronts, whether it's across marketing, media relations, across several fronts. So it is still very important. But I think, like you said, a good blend is going to make you look like a smart marketer.
Yes. So we talked about this. I mean, we counteracted this in our main argument for why the written word is overrated and the spoken word is underused. But I think we can probably elaborate a little bit about, some areas where the spoken word is underused.
Underused.
Obviously things like word of mouth and the sales process is invaluable, but here we're kind of focused more on the voice marketing aspect of, a healthcare organization.
Voice marketing, very trendy. What would you say voice marketing is? I mean, I know it sounds obvious, but what are some things that would really say to folks, oh yeah, have I been doing voice marketing? Should I be doing voice marketing? Because, geez, Jennifer, you just said it's so underused.
It is underused, but not that it's not used. But I think, voice marketing, it's not the term that you hear when you media relations and, content development or, all those kind of ones that everyone is doing. So voice marketing, is just something that's, becoming more mainstream to marketing, to healthcare marketers. I see it as more the future of, content creation.
Yep.
Not necessarily even the future though. It's the present. It's here. People are doing it. It's just about creating the right voice and persona and content and kind of delivering it, not written in long form.
Yeah. And I feel like it's, I guess the production aspect of it. I know it's maybe your voice, and I feel like it's become a lot more, I don't know if the word's easier or convenient to do. Like you can basically record something on your phone and it still sounds pretty darn good. There are a lot of ways to do it where even maybe 5 years ago, or, I don't know, you'd record something and sound, that doesn't sound great. It doesn't sound like professional quality. So I think a lot of folks, not with the need for huge budgets and huge equipments, like, you get into the video production side of things, where like budgets get up there for that stuff like that. I think you can do some good voice marketing with basically kind of some of the tools you use in your everyday life.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the ease to do things like this radio show. This radio show takes us zero effort.
None.
No, it is
but you're right. We're doing this with minimal investment in terms of equipment and stuff like that. It's stuff that we use every day. It's, a good mic and a good production software and things like that. And you can really do some great voice marketing like we do on this podcast.
So yeah, definitely, audio, video clips. I think video has been, YouTube's been around for, I don't know how long. We talked about it in our social media episode, but I've forgot. My attention span is very short.
You don't even know what I said 2 minutes ago. I know.
Video has long been, a component, but it's, like you said, like the production, not everybody is comfortable with a video. And webinars are part of, voice marketing too. I think it's just a way of, talking about something, having a conversation and educating an audience on a particular topic. So yes, I agree. I think the ease to which, somebody can make a recording on their phone or their computer, and then, there's tons of free or inexpensive editing software out there to use. So the overhead for production can be, minimal.
Yep. And even when you do have to throw a little money behind things, like when you get into some of the corporate explainer videos or even some of the product messaging where you have a talking head, you can, hire a service at a minimal cost to really pull this all together if you don't have voiceover talent. And you can get some good voiceover talent. Heck, the intro to this show, they may think that you and I are singing, right? Clearly.
We have great singing voices.
We do. But hey, little secret, going to let everyone know that's not us. But you know what? That's some voiceover talent.
Yes. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Overrated and Underused on Healthcare Now Radio. Today's episode is the written versus spoken word.
So let's also get back, and I want to talk about the media relations aspect of the spoken word, because again, we spent some time, talking about the written word on the media relations side, but the spoken word, obviously, on the media relations side is also very valuable. Things like, of course, securing interviews for your subject matter experts, and your talking heads. So broadcast is still great because, again, get a broadcast clip. This is something you can share on social media. You can share on your personal LinkedIn pages. There's a lot of great things to do, especially not only to get the viewers that some broadcast brings, but also to help share that message. And then there's, of course, event-focused video and audio opportunities. So things like HIMSS, right? HIMSS has launched HIMSS TV. So, this was something where, we were able to get a couple clients on HIMSS TV talking about either their product or some industry news. And the great thing is, not only were, we able to get that clip and again, showcase that and share it, but also they were also going, I think, live streamer in somewhere or producing it and showing it at actual HIMSS as well with some of their HIMSS TV. So it was great to actually get the message to all these other vendors and peers that were circling HIMSS. So from broadcast opportunities to, and I would even throw in there, even video blogs. I think there's some who do a really good job of video blogging as well. So, and again, I see that in some ways a piece of media relations because, it's something that you're looking to be repurposed and potentially picked up elsewhere as well. So I think when it comes to media relations, although we don't see it a lot because again, it's hard. It is hard to get time for a broadcast opportunity. when you think about it, you're actually trying to get all your message into basically like 30 seconds, because this isn't going to be a long form sit down opportunity, most likely on the broadcast side. So They are hard. You're competing with a lot of people who are great on camera and things like that. So I guess my point is, although you shouldn't put all your eggs in the broadcast basket, there are other ways, other audio ways on the media relations side to get your talking heads out there in video form.
Definitely, like even before, we've launched this radio program, and, we have numerous clients that have their own radio programs. Even before that, like there's, a lot of radio programs are looking for guest interviews. Like that's kind of their format. We've got clients on as guests for one radio episode of a particular radio show. So I think that's just another outlet for, securing, we consider that a media relations placement, but it's a voice media relations placement. So I think the gist of what we're saying, let's get back to the whole main point of this whole episode. We're going to boil it down, is that flexibility is key in marketing. So while you don't want to throw out all of your written content and, never write anything again, fire all the writers, they still need a job, but
right.
You should mix in more spoken content and, deliver your messages that way. Your readers or viewers or listeners, need dynamic, engaging content. So I think, coming up with a mix of that is our best advice.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think, and again, although we're trying to talk about, hey, potentially what's hot, what's not, right? But I think, a lot of marketers out there, to give credit to everyone, they're doing this. They're doing a really good job of storytelling, whether it's a mix of the written word and the visuals, things like slideshows, infographics. So we're seeing it across the board. There's some really great examples out there. And so I just think it's more looking at it and saying, okay, what maybe should be a shift from the written word potentially to the spoken word, and maybe not. Maybe you say, no, this is something that, again, we're not saying the written word is dead. We're not saying that. We're just saying what can go from, yesterday's, 500 word blog post to being a visual, an infographic, a video, a talking head. And, can we do things differently that way? And like I said, I think a lot of marketers are doing a good job of that. It's just kind of looking at it, stepping back, and there's new resources at your fingertips that you may not have thought existed even a year ago to do some of this stuff. Now maybe you can, and really kind of improve upon, the visual side, the spoken word side of your marketing campaign.
Clinicians Corner.
All right, so it's that time of the show where we bring in the Clinicians Corner aspect. And what we like to do here is we just talked for the last, 20 minutes or so about how these techniques apply to, general marketers at agencies, marketers at organizations, some big, some small. But Clinicians Corner, we like to focus more, exactly what it says, on clinicians and small practices, and those who may not have agencies or big marketing teams or any marketers at all. And these are the folks who sometimes wear that marketing hat. I think when it comes to especially the audio and video side of things, we think that there are probably a lot of clinicians at the local level, small practice level, who are already doing a really good job of this. And we see this a lot with either, video testimonials that they're using. Some are doing really good with even their own infographics, things like that. But I think a lot of clinicians on the local side are doing a really good job of utilizing the audio and video aspect. And of course, because this is a lot of stuff they're seeding for their websites, which we talked about last month, how this is an important tool for a lot of these local clinicians at times, and also for their social media channels. So what do you think about that? Do you get the sense they're doing a good job using audio video? Or
I definitely think, it certainly depends on the clinic and the practice and the provider and how comfortable they are with, social media and video. But I think there's a lot of people out there that are doing it well. Mm-hmm. But I think it is something that across the board, more providers should look at doing. If they're not already, or, better ways to incorporate videos or explainers on their website and social media channels, or testimonials from customers.
And I think if video also brings out that, maybe it's the wrong phrase, but that human aspect for a doctor, like that really shows the bedside manner in some ways too. You kind of get a good sense of who this clinician is, especially if you're out there looking to expand your practice. I think, sometimes the video component can be a really good tool for even recruitment.
Yeah. And I think, for practices, like when it comes to, the outreach and the advertising side of it, when you're only looking at this local audience, TV and radio station spots, can be effective and won't necessarily like break the bank. It's not something we'd recommend to our health IT clients, like, our nationwide vendors that are, selling across the country. We, our first choice is not, okay, well, let's put up a billboard or a radio spot and, a TV ad, because it's not cost effective and they don't have millions of dollars for advertising budgets for one small campaign.
Yeah, and it's not where their target audience is either, So like you're saying, like, the local TV ads and radio spots, they're targeting patients right there in their local community. And those are the folks that are on those channels to hear things like doctors in the area or the best shoe store. It could be anything, but that's how they're getting some of their exposure to some of these local businesses. And that's where a lot of these physicians are part of that, obviously.
Yes. On the local level, I think the physicians have a greater opportunity to, do radio spots and TV and engage their audiences in these video messages on their website and social. So,
yep. And we get it too. Like a lot of this stuff, it requires time. Like these guys, their main focus, their main priority, obviously, is taking care of patients. So they don't always have the time to do a lot of this stuff. That's why we when we talk about Clinicians Corner, we try and give ideas that won't monopolize a lot of your time, even weekly. And some of this can be done, maybe an hour a week, and you can bust out a testimonial or a new video or a video blog or who knows what. But anyway, and even things like podcasts. I mean, we're not trying to say that local physicians should jump on a podcast and create their own, but I think the opportunity is there for the right person, the right personality to even get into podcasting. I think. All right.
Well, this is now our favorite time of the show. Inbox with Adrienne.
Adrienne Stoner.
Inbox with Adrienne.
So Adrienne, I know you have so many amazing questions sent in. So which one are we going to talk about today?
You're right. My inbox is slap full, but we found one that was perfect. How much time and effort does it take to develop your own podcast? And I think this is a perfect question for us.
Yeah, it's a question that we get asked a lot. Fun fact, this isn't a podcast. This is a radio show because it's on the actual radio.
But it turns into a podcast, right?
Yes, when it's available for on-demand. Like download.
True that.
But we don't care how you listen to us. You can listen to us on the radio or a podcast, just as long as you tune in to hear all of Tom's wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I think it's important to highlight the behind the scenes of a podcast because it seems like we just get on here and chat and have a great time.
That's what we do.
That is what we do. But before we are able to shine like the stars that we are, have someone who is helping us develop an outline for our content for the day. And there is brainstorming what topics we're going to discuss. And, you have to come up with an album cover, descriptor, the editing.
It's easy.
We never say for sure.
We could be live. Let's just put it that way. We're so good. Yes. It could be a live show.
It could be a live show.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of prep work and behind the scenes work that certainly goes into the creation of a show, coming up with the concept and the topics and the ideas and, the content that you're going to deliver, not written, but spoken. There's a lot that happens behind the scenes. And then obviously, the editing and, production and getting it kind of delivered out there. Like whether you're on a radio station or you're, submitting your own podcast to podcast playlists, it's a good undertaking, but I think it, certainly pays off, especially, as we're suggesting that voice marketing is becoming more popular.
Yep. Then you got to be promoters too.
That's true.
It's something you do. So it's just because you create it doesn't mean we're going to get all these great listeners, so promotion is a big key. And I know that's something you help do for us too, Adrienne.
Promotion is key. We share it on social. We get good conversations going about it. And Healthcare Now Radio is really helpful with that aspect as well.
They are.
It takes a lot of time and effort to develop your own radio show or podcast, but it is well worth it. We have several clients that put on their own radio shows and podcasts, and I think it's just something that a lot more companies and organizations are working into their marketing programs.
Definitely. So with all that being said, the time and effort, there's a lot that goes into it, but we definitely at Anderson have found value in it. We feel like the return is worth the effort that we have to put into it. We see several hundred downloads of each episode, along with 1,000 to 2,000 live streams for our monthly episodes. So I definitely think what we are saying has value, and people like to hear what we have to say.
Well, I think that is it for this fun episode of Written versus Spoken Word. Thanks to all our listeners, or ONU groupies, as we call you, for listening in. We are sponsored by Anderson Interactive and can be heard weekdays at 10 a.m., 6 p.m., and 2 a.m. Eastern on Healthcare Now Radio. And you can email your Inbox with Adrienne questions to hello@andersoni, that's the letter I.com, or tweet us at Jen_Jennings, Tom_Testa, or Adrienne_Stoner, and follow us with the hashtag #OverUnderRadio. Mic drop.
Thanks for listening to the Overrated and Underused Show with your hosts, experienced marketers Jen Jennings and Tom Testa, and special guest Adrienne Stoner. Overrated.